Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Pastor Dixon here. And I wanted to take a minute to do this recording in order to address Scarlett Wilson's comments yesterday in her 2 o'clock press conference that she called, I guess, just with the media alone, didn't involve the family, didn't Facebook Live it. So she could be rebutted or, any kind of discrepancies might have been pointed out by those that might oppose what she was saying. But anyway, I wanted to make this video here in order to make sure that just as this title says, the stories don't match. They don't match, especially the stories about this communication thing that really was the reason for the press conference yesterday. Over 2 years, and there's been literally no conversation between or communication between Scarlett Wilson, who is the attorney, the prosecuting attorney in this case against Emily Pelletier, supposedly representing, as they say, the people, and the people being the Dantzler and Dantzler-Williams family. Okay, so it's amazing that over that 2 year period that the family says, especially as far as the sons, Darren and Eric Dantzler, Stephanie's brothers, and Shanice and Miranda's uncles, the two of them have called over to Scarlett Wilson's office and left messages with their secretary anywhere from 30 to 40 times over the last 2 years. Now, every time they called, they left a message for Scarlett Wilson with Scarlett Wilson's secretary. But Scarlett Wilson says that she got no messages. This is from the Live 5 news report yesterday of Scarlett Wilson. Here's what the reporter said in the broadcast. Let's see.
Scarlett Wilson says she hasn't gotten those messages.
She says she hasn't gotten those messages. 30 to 40 messages over a 2 year period of time, and she says she got none of those messages. My friends, if that secretary was my secretary, that secretary would be terminated as of right now. I'm just going to say it. That's dereliction of duty. Her job as the secretary is to report things that pertaining to people trying to address her supervisor, supposed to report them. Instead, Scarlett is claiming that she never got any of those messages. Wow. That many calls? Listen, with that many calls, it seems like the secretary, first off, would have made it a priority to tell Scarlett about it. Secondly, somebody in that office, the secretary or Scarlett, if she did know about it, they should have actually informed the attorneys that their family is trying to call them, and that's not the way this is supposed to work. They said that the video, and I'm going to show the video. Let me show the video now of the entire segment right there with Scarlett Wilson talking about how they couldn't or wasn't supposed to be contacted them and why. Here we go right here.
Wilson says she hasn't gotten those messages, but her staff hasn't called the family directly because at the first meeting, the family directed everything to go through their lawyers.
And once they give us instructions to only go through that attorney, ethically, I'm not allowed to go around that. And so I can see why they were upset.
Okay. So ethically, they weren't allowed to go around that. So according to Scarlett Wilson, from the beginning, there was supposed to be no communication whatsoever between the family directly with her, and that she was supposed to communicate with the attorneys to the family. Okay, that's what was said. But again, it seems that with that many calls into her office, 30 to 40 over a 2 year period, that either her or the secretary, if the secretary didn't say it, then somebody should have just contacted the attorneys and told the attorneys, listen, these people are trying to contact us, and ethically we cannot talk back to them. So would you please tell them that the agreed upon method was through the attorneys? But nobody reached out to the attorneys to tell them that. Why? 30 to 40 times? Something just ain't right. The stories don't match, okay? And even the office itself, they might not have been able to ethically reach out to the family, but they could have at least given the family a friendly reminder of what the original agreement was, so that the family could stop stressing themselves out, calling and calling and calling and calling and calling. Okay. Once again, let me run that back one more time. Okay. Let's see. See if I know how to do this. Okay. Nope. Add to state.
Scarlett Wilson says she hasn't gotten those messages, but her staff hasn't called the family directly because at the first meeting, the family directed everything to go through their lawyers.
And once they give us instructions to only go through that attorney, ethically, I'm not allowed to go around that. And so I can see why they were upset.
So her staff was given instructions not to contact them directly. If you go back to the original live recording, Facebook live recording that was done, and advance the recording to right after the 23-minute mark, you'll hear one of the reporters that was in the room who had just received a text message from Scarlett Wilson's office. And I want you to hear what that text message was about. This is a clip from the actual Facebook Live with that reporter saying he just got this specific text message. Remember, she said that her staff was not allowed to contact the family, okay? Only through the attorneys. Listen to what the text message that came into this reporter had to say, okay? Not knowing anything and not hearing anything from her from June of 2022, 27 months ago, that's unsatisfactory.
Well, to follow what you just said, literally they responded to me about 5 minutes ago and said they have been in contact with somebody, with people. Let me read the exact. It's short.
I appreciate it.
It says, sorry, I've got like 5 different things in here. Our office has been in contact with a few members of the family. Are you able to share who will be at the press conference? So basically they said they're claiming they've been in contact with a few family members.
The question that I would ask before I turn this over to the family to respond is, will they share the names of those few members that they say they contacted? Because if they don't do that, smoke and mirrors, okay? Well, I don't know if you heard what I heard, but I heard that reporter had just gotten a text message from Scarlett Wilson's office who said her people had been instructed that they could not ethically contact the family, but somebody texted during the press conference yesterday, and specifically, the reporter read the text. He said, our office, I quote, our office has been in contact with a few members of the family. Not lawyers, okay, a few members of the family. That came from her office. It's not made up. Again, the stories just don't match. And that's problematic right there. As I get close to the end of this recording, I want you to hear what the family said about even that part, about that text message that said someone in that office, I don't know if it's Scarlett or whomever, but someone had spoken with or contacted a few members of the family. Here's what the family had to say about that.
Are there any other family members they could be in contact with besides you guys? That'd be kind of weird, I would think. But
No.
So the last time you've spoken with them, they make it sound like, well, there's no timeline, so I can't. We'd only be speculating.
Call my son's call. Every time they call, they tell me that she didn't respond. She airing and airing. Only two.
Obviously, you guys are leaving messages, or
Oh, yeah.
are you physically talking to another human being, or are you leaving message on answers? Secretary each time.
It's a coincidence that that she takes you 5 minutes in this conference. Yeah.
Well, I did message them that I was coming, so that was. They seem interested in wanting to talk today.
Yeah. Wow.
Anybody to call you in? Yeah, he didn't call these two.
And this it'll be the immediate family. I mean, be close, be more than family. This is tight bond
He
with the
make
three
the call.
girls.
It ain't nobody else that she
can call.
can talk to us besides us.
If she don't talk to us, who else she can talk to? She
Tell
know
him, give a
anybody else in
name.
the family?
Give a name, but nobody else.
So the question would be, why did her office call and say that they contacted members of the family when, one, they weren't supposed to be contacting members of the family, but then they said, two, that they did contact members of the family, and three, the actual family members were there said whoever they contacted was not them, the actual communication sources. Again, the title of this is The Stories Don't Match. Scarlett Wilson, The Stories Don't Match. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And we have evidence out here that supports the fact that somebody somewhere is playing some games. And these people do not deserve that. These people lost 3 members of their family, 3 females of their family on Mother's Day. And the decency and humanity that should be coming toward them is being denied to them, right along with justice. Because here it is 2 years later, and that same person that did this to their family has been out on the street since June 10th, 2022, going here and there and celebrating birthdays and Christmases and holidays and everything. And this family is left to grieve the loss of 3 women in their family. You had right there, you had the grandmother, Mrs. Betty Simmons. You have her 2 sons, which would have been the mother, Mrs. Betty Simmons, Stephanie's mother, Stephanie's 2 brothers, Darren and Eric, right there. Mrs. Simmons is the grandmother to Shanice and Miranda. Darren and Eric are the uncles to Shanice and Miranda. And even more importantly for those 2 women in their lives, their father, Randall Williams, was standing there also. And they have not heard anything over the last 2 years about what's going on with this case. Why is this case not in the court? Why is there been no justice for their loved ones? And we can put it, I'm following up with the attorneys. I'm definitely following up with the attorneys, because if they got information that they didn't pass on to the families, that ain't right either. That ain't right either. We will see. We will see. I hope their stories match. But right now, as far as Scarlett Wilson, Scarlett, your stories don't match. And it's clear your stories do not match. And until your stories match, I ain't letting up. And I got some more folks working with me. All right. Thank you all so much. Please share this out, and I'll be back in touch soon. Take care. Peace.